I am currently a lead data scientist and AI architect working for IBM. I'm also a IEEE senior member, holder of two granted patents in AI, and I have multiple other patents. So I have seen how AI has actually evolved starting from traditional machine learning to today's new era agentic AI and generative AI systems. 95% of the POCs they fail in production, and they think that generative AI or agentic AI is answer to everything. I think that's like a gross misconception. The one thing that we forget is to productionize, we need to use the existing data that the organizations already have. Now, when you take a new model, or you build a new system, overnight you cannot ignore everything and just put that into production.
This week, Sumitro Ghatak. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Graeme.
So, you are a very, very distinguished individual, and I think this will be really valuable to people from a technical background, people looking for a view of where AI is going. And I think the convergence between the AI research into the practical, real productionization of artificial intelligence. So, to get us kicked off, could you give us a little background of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. So, I am Sumitro Ghatak, and I am currently a lead data scientist and AI architect working for IBM. And I have more than 11 years of experience, and I have gradually scaled from being a data scientist to my current position of an AI architect and lead data scientist. So I have seen how AI has actually evolved starting from traditional machine learning to the today's new era agentic AI and generative AI systems. And as part of my job in IBM, I have served multiple industries, worked with various clients across the globe in Europe, Asia, and the US. Apart from that, I'm also a IEEE senior member, and I actively review research papers submitted to various IEEE conferences across the globe. I am also holder of two granted patents in AI, and I have multiple other patents in review currently with the U.S. Patent Organization. I am also an active patent board member in IBM, reviewing intellectual property contributions from various IBMers across the globe. So yeah, to sum it up, I have been in this field for long enough, and I really feel my contributions I definitely have something to contribute to this area.
Excellent. So, in our little pre-chat, we were talking about uh, a number of talks that you've recently given, and a phrase that you used, I think, was fascinating: singularity. Could you give us
Mhm.
some color around your talks, what you've done in and around that, and what you mean by the AI agentic singularity?
Right. So yeah, I do deliver talks and keynotes across various events. So a few of my recent keynotes that I delivered, one was the accountability singularity, and the other one was around what could be some of the best practices to scale and move agentic AI and generative AI solutions beyond the lab or beyond the proof of concept into production systems, which could actually reap value for the organizations. And there was another talk that I recently delivered on governance of agentic AI systems. So when we talk about singularity, is like we all of us we know that for AI systems, human in the loop validation or evaluation is of paramount importance. But the problem that would arise in the near future is all the organizations across the globe, or everyone is trying to adopt agentic AI, or for example generative AI. But what happens when the threshold for that validation exceeds? So nowadays the transactions, or the responses that are being generated by the AI systems are well within the scope which could be validated by a human, and in case of any issues or fairness challenges, that could be addressed before the response actually goes out to the end user. But I am assuming, and I'm pretty sure about it, there would be a situation in the very near future where the transactions would far exceed what a human could evaluate or validate. So, in that context, what should be our next step, and how we could prepare ourselves so that we there is an automated system in place which evaluates and validates the responses or the transactions that the agents are doing, and the responses that are being generated from these AI systems, so that humans, even if the humans are not in the loop, we know that the AI is generating the right responses, and it's not going rogue, or it's not moving, or it's not drifting from its usual path.
And that brings into question a few key points. And as we talk, I'm just going to pick out little topics, so to speak. So, one, the concept of, and something we're passionate about, trust and truth from the data perspective. Second of all, the difference between rapid prototyping and proof of concepts to productionization, where it is absolutely imperative that you can have that trust and truth within scalable data and scalable AI systems. Uh, and then as you add those two together, looking at the risks. So the risks being hallucination, I mean, it's been discussed a lot. So the faster that you move, the more potential risk, potentially the more opportunity. But as we move from ideation into actual implemented productionization within business, within enterprise, given that you're at IBM, how how do professionals look at that and think, is the upside by moving too quickly potentially creating a massive amount of problems, which will create a false economy of more downside, unless at a foundational level of creating technology which is production ready? I mean, playing with those topics, give us your thoughts.
So I think I pretty much agree that moving too quickly into production has its downsides, because the thing is, when we are doing a prototype, or we are trying to do something as let's say as a proof of concept, the scope is really narrow. We just need to take uh let's assume we need to take a model. We just need to feed in data which we have as a static data set, and it's like, while the proof of concept works, you're getting high accuracy, your agents are working perfectly well. But then when it comes to the actual systems, because when and this was a recent study that has been published at various places, or various areas, is that 95% of the POCs, they fail in production, and it's only about less than 5% where the organizations could actually reap that ROI. Now, why is that? When now we see the AI research, or there are new models, and AI is advancing at a very rapid speed. Now, when you take that, and you try to build a POC, then that works well. But the one thing that we forget is to productionize, we need to use the existing data that the organizations already have. Now, when you take a new model, or you build a new system, overnight you cannot ignore everything and just put that into production. Now, when the main problem that arises is when you try to integrate that into your existing ecosystem. Overnight, if you try to do a integration, there are a lot of damages that can happen, which also include reputational damages. Because today, if as an organization you are not using AI, but you are providing a service which works well, you might be behind, but you are still providing that service. Overnight, if you just implement or you try to force embed an AI into your existing stack, and then your services faults, or the end users have a bad experience, the end users might not uh, care that much if you use an AI or not, because everyone knows at some point organizations will adopt AI. But if they have a bad experience, that actually causes reputational damage. Because never, as an organization, you would never want your users to have something, a bad user experience, or some kind of an experience which kind of backfires onto you. Let's say you hurriedly push a agent into production, and that agent goes rogue and starts processing refunds which are not in compliance with your finance department. So you then you cannot go to the customer and say, okay, my agent didn't work well. So rather than pushing or forcing AI rapidly into the ecosystem, I would say we need to take our time. We need to understand our existing ecosystem, how our legacy data is arranged, what could be some of the fault lines that could be there when we try to put this AI into our existing ecosystem. And then we should try to cover those gaps first, and then roll it out to production. Also, there should be a phased rollout to production. It's not that, okay, I have a AI system ready, let's roll it out to everyone. Roll it out gradually, do it in a shadow mode, do it as a canary pipeline. Start with 1% of the users, take their feedback, understand how the system is working, then gradually move it to 10%, 50%. And then once you're confident, okay, this works really well, then you move it to your entire user base. Apart from that, the other thing which we usually don't uh, uh, consider that much in a POC are the security risks, because a POC is something, is a static data you have, and your model works well, and it's all good, it's all hunky dory. But when you move into a production system, the risks are real, because there are hackers out there who want to break into your system. Then there are chances that your proprietary data could leak into the public world. So these kind of things, we usually don't pay much attention during the POC, which are very important, because you might have a model today, but your security team might not agree to productionize that, because they are more concerned about the data risks rather than you adopting AI into your workflows. So I think there are few of these things that we really need to take care of before we deploy any AI into production, and none of these could be accomplished overnight. So in my personal opinion, if you ask me, this productionizing AI is something which should be done with utmost care and responsibility, and we should give it the maximum time possible. Maximum time again differs by organizations. By when I say maximum time, the time when the organization feels confident that we are ready to go ahead with this, and this is not a hurried approach.
And that really lends itself to looking at what the point and purpose of any application of AI is. And if we were to look at real world examples of what rushing into something proof of concept driven or immature technology can look like, again, it's something I was researching just yesterday, given you work for IBM. So let's look back at the history of PCs, for example.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
to one side, there's Mac and PC. So they were the two opposing methodologies. Now, as years have evolved, everyone took on the internet. There was Netscape. There was controversy around Internet Explorer being pushed into Windows. Now, as we've evolved along, we can see that from the shareholder perspective, the value in Microsoft has gone through the roof. From the customer satisfaction standpoint, hardware requirements have now changed. So you may have purchased some hardware, but now you don't really own or control your hardware because AI has been implemented into the operating system, and now it's very much agentic driven. Going back to where we started the conversation, the idea is looking like your computer is really borrowed by you and you're not really in control, and it can do the thinking for you, but there's a sovereignty issue. There's also a control issue. I'm aware of a lot of people who've moved from Windows or from Microsoft uh, based systems to Apple, who previously were very anti-Apple. But effectively, that's primarily down to one, the adoption of large language models in the first instance. Not to say there's anything wrong with them, they have massive utility, but they are liable to hallucination, and they're not mature to the point that we think they are. Second of all, putting agentic capabilities in, so there's no visibility anymore. Put that into the corporate environment, or the business enterprise environment, where you do have rules. And again, going back to what's the point and purpose? Well, for risk and resilience, or for finance, or for marketing, they're all very different rules. They're all different use cases. And to just lump everything in there, it's not really a surprise that we're seeing the amount of negative consequences, because even if you took the word or the phrase AI out of it, you would not apply the methodology which has been undertaken on the hype cycle if it were any other form of technology. And in many ways, that's giving elements of AI a bad name, when in reality, to look at the considerations properly, to think about it properly, and specifically, as opposed to a generalized basis, surely would lead to much, much, much better outcomes if it was specific driven, use case driven, and common sense applied.
Yeah, and to add to it, basically, what I have observed, again in my personal capacity, what I have observed is that lot of people, they lack that basic ML foundation, and they think that generative AI or agentic AI is answer to everything. I think that that's like a gross misconception. Generative AI is basically language models. Now, if you are depending on a language model for predictive tasks, you are it's in itself picking the wrong thing. And then if you say, okay, my AI didn't perform well, it doesn't make sense to us who are in the AI world, because you started on the wrong foot. To solve a predictive problem, you cannot use a language model. Now, the language model's main area of expertise, or I understand there are nowadays multimodal multimodal models like various whatever we have, chat gpt and gemini and everything. But the main problem is they are still, their foundation is grounded in that natural language processing. All of a sudden, like I have seen I have interacted with many people who say that LLMs are really bad at solving mathematical or logical problems. The entire foundation of how LLM would work, they are not meant to solve mathematical problems or logical problems. So if you are giving out a question to solve a logical problem, it's not their purpose. They won't be able to do that. So even in case of organizations, if they want to deploy a large language model to solve some of the logical challenges or things like that, it will definitely result where what you said about hallucinations, because a model will work the way we provide, or we kind of prompt the model to work. So if we prompt the model to answer questions which are beyond its capability, we cannot stop that hallucination. It's bound to happen. So I think what people need to realize, who are actually wanting to deploy these systems into production, is to have a really good use case which aligns with the use of generative models or agentic AI. If your use case is not aligned, and you are just rushing to deploy AI just because you don't want to be left behind, I think that will bring in more problems rather than solving your existing problems.
And that's a really good point, because there is a general consensus, one I think we could all agree with, that it's smart to adopt AI, right? As a general term, in this instance, rather than not. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't cross the road without looking. It's not a massive additive element. It's like, okay, so we can all agree we should be looking to adopt it. Let's look at the next rational and logical question. And that really should be, how can we improve the business? Not kind of
Yeah,
how can we
exactly.
fire people and reduce short term the overhead, but what problems does the business have? And the marketing, you may say, well, the audience of our target audience is evolving, where their attention is moving from one traditional medium to a more modern medium. Okay, well, how can we solve the problem? And then look at, well, the use case of the problem, which is a business problem. Then you can say, well, what are my choices? Well, this type of AI, maybe that plus that plus that, the engineered approach. And personally, I think the future will be looking at all of these elements as capabilities, in the same way they would say, well, tires are a capability on a car, steering wheel is, heated seats, electric windows. Engineer them into a product, and don't say, well, we can only use one type of thing. I mean, it's
Yeah,
irrational.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and nowadays I think AI is getting marketed as a product which you, if you adopt into your workflow, that becomes an additional product to enhance your productivity. It's no more about just the model, or just to adopt that AI in itself. When you adopt that as a product, and I think in a development scope also, AI are being developed as microservices, not as monolithic systems anymore. Because you don't want to damage what I said before. You don't want to damage what's already existing there, but you want to empower that with an additional capability, which is your, you can say, your new brain. And the other point which I really liked about what we are discussing and what you just raised, AI should be able to solve a business problem, not to reduce headcount, or not for short-term benefits. I think that the long-term benefit is of paramount importance, and that's how you actually realize the ROI, because in short term ROI might not be that useful, and then people might think, oh, we spent so much money and effort, but it's not reaping any benefits. No, we need to understand the minor benefits that we are getting in the short term, because those minor benefits will actually magnify into real benefits, which will solve the business problem at hand, and at the same time generate revenue. For example, let's take this a simple agent. We all of us, we know that at some point in time we need to cancel our flight tickets, and when we cancel our flight tickets, that refund process should be very simple, because it's like, okay, you purchased a refundable ticket, you're canceling it within 24 hours. That kind of a problem should never even go to a support agent, because the rules are met. You have cancelled your ticket, a refund is processed in an instant. This is a very important business problem, because an organization, and I'm just thinking large, no specific organization, but an organization might have, let's say, 10 people who are overburdened during the holiday season, just because they need to verify the details of each of the refunds. Instead, if we actually have an agent deployed which goes through the rules, and if the rules are right, it just has some kind of intelligence capability to understand the user's context and then match the rules. If the rules are right, just go ahead and process the refund. In that way, we free up the time of that existing team of 10 people who could actually focus on the complex refund issues rather than these simple ones. Now, someone might say that, okay, during this period, at the time they implemented the AI, they only got complex issues which had to go to a support agent. But it's not that 12 months, 365 days of the year, you would get complex refund issues. So at that point, you might not realize the importance or the benefit of that agent, which is a short term benefit. But when that holiday season actually passes, still people would go ahead and refund. It's not that holiday season is over, so I would never cancel my ticket. Still, people would go ahead and cancel their tickets. But that's when you realize the actual potential, because the cancellations are actually going to a agent rather than to the support team, which was earlier overburdened with that complex refund issue. So this is just a very basic example of how you tend to realize the actual benefit, or the actual ROI from implementing AI. It's not that in the short term you will get a lot of benefits. You might, but if you don't, that doesn't mean that AI doesn't work well. So it's basically, as we say in IBM, AI is like augmented intelligence. Its main purpose is to empower, and again, this is what we started with. Its main purpose is to empower the individual to take better decisions, and to have an enhanced productivity at work, not to replace anyone.
And I think there's a nuance there, something when we've been dealing with um, the clients that we work with, the nuance of the individual, the department, and the organization. So my observation is the majority of AI has been what I would call one-to-one. So it's all about the individual, and it'll be sold on an organizational basis. So it treats every individual almost the same, which is non-specific, and it'll sell the idea to the organization as if it's specific. But in reality, each individual works for a department. They have the metric upon which they're measured. They have the specific problems that they have, and the contribution of all of these departments and functions contribute towards the wider goal of the company. And yes, you have the top-down management structures, but you have the different regions, the different areas. So actually, it's understandable, but the complexity comes in. There is no one size fits all. If you can understand 5 individuals within one department, what's the goal of the department? What's the role of the individuals? The responsibilities divided up, and what contributing factor does that one department have to a wider function? And then the combination of functions from operations, sales, marketing, manufacturing, supply chain, accounting, all of these departments equate to something that creates growth. So if we were to look at how can you achieve scale of capacity and capability per individual aggregated by business function and department, then effectively those 10 people respectively could get a 5 to 10x of output. And ultimately, from the top down, uh, the top is really looking not to save money, they're looking to make money, because no one gets out of bed to lose less money or to make, lose less money. You get out of bed. The metric of business is growth. It's always growth. Same with economies and countries. It's all about growth. The bottom up approach, bonuses, success, job satisfaction, is to do with the ability to deliver more and not to be under such extreme pressure and be under resourced. So obviously contributing on an individual, departmental, functional, organizational basis, the way that people are looking at AI in enterprise and business has been fundamentally misplaced. But I think in many ways, that's because the primary players that have come to market that have been leading the push for AI have had the one thing that they're selling. So they've tried to convince everyone to buy what they're selling, but what they're selling doesn't necessarily have the relevant approach. And we probably saw this in the past and we were talking a long time ago, with the attitude of Steve Jobs and Apple and the attitude of Bill Gates and Microsoft. So not even to current times. One, we've created something that you need to change your business to make work. You need to change to make this fit. And the other, which is we're going to observe how you work, how you play, and we're going to try and enhance how you do it to get better results without changing behavior. Right now, we're in the thick of the narrative of you need to change your behavior, you're the problem, you need to change how everything works. But that doesn't take into consideration, as you said previous in the conversation, security, um, the risks, the actual functional view of what people are doing, what you could use. Because if you did begin to use the AI that worked, it probably wouldn't be a single branded product from a single company.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and but to again add to your point, what I really feel is, and I completely agree, this is basically the benefits of AI. They actually they do a bottom up approach like a pyramid. So the top person would only feel the value of AI when it accumulates or it grows into a 5x or 10x. Now let me give an example, and this is again, I personally feel that we should we should have resources, or the people who understand AI in the organizations to basically extract that value of AI. Because right now what is happening is, let's say we have a large language model. That large language model is basically marketed as an AI product for everyone. Now, if I am a team, or basically I lead a team, I will have to see that, or I will have to put in some kind of not guardrails, some kind of instructions in place, that who could use that AI product in what kind of ways. Because when for example, if someone is a developer, for example, that developer is using the large language model to let's say generate code, or to kind of a test code. But the other person who might be a, let's say, a product owner or a product manager, that person also uses the same large language model to write their own user stories, or let's say to enhance their own user stories. Now, I as a person should be able to collect those aspects together from that developer and from my product owner to show that cumulative benefit of AI. Because there might not be, at least what I know at this point, there doesn't exist any AI who could actually evaluate on top of the other AIs to give the leadership a cumulative value that, see, okay, your developer is also using AI, your product owner is also using AI, and this is a 5x or a 10x improvement in their capacity or capability, and this is what you are reaping. So I think someone who knows the nuances of AI and how that AI could be utilized, I think more than knowing how to use that AI, I think we need to know that what are the best ways to extract information or extract help from that AI, which could actually enhance our capability, and then we could actually build that pyramid towards the top, and kind of show to the management, okay, you have people from five different backgrounds who are hooking in to the same large language model that you have at an organizational level, but individually, if you look, their productivity is rising, and this is how it looks when you accumulate. So taking going back to the example which you just gave, now organizations, they usually purchase licenses for these LLMs. So once they have the license, the operations team, they also use the same LLM. The sales, they also use, and if it's a product based company, something which is not a manufacturing, they would have developers, testers, or let's say a software development company, they would have their developers and testers who are also using the same LLM to accomplish their task. But if I know how this LLM or how this AI works, and what kind of productivity enhancement it can make, I, as that person, can accumulate everything that is going around across the departments, and I can present that to my leadership. So I think, and this is again strictly my personal opinion, but I think there should be some kind of an AI office similar to a role that we have, like a CTO or CIO, something like that, who can actually show that value to the executives and to the leadership, that how or what kind of benefits that this AI is actually bringing into the organization. Because let's say today you are the CEO of a company, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you want to see in your dashboard is what kind of revenues are you making, and against what kind of investments you have. So if you see that you are spending, let's say, $1,000 on AI licenses, and you don't see any productivity rise or any revenue increase against that investment, you might feel that, okay, I'm not sure why even I'm investing that $1,000. But if we have an AI office who could actually pull in the relevant data, and who could actually uh, do a cumulative analysis and present it to you, that against these $1,000 which you have invested in the licenses, this is the ROI we are getting, which is $10,000 across all. As a CEO, you are happy to see the $10,000. It might be that in operations team is making that 1,000 to 2,000, but sales is making that 1,000 to 5x, which is 5,000. You really don't care if operations is doubling and sales is doing 5x, because at the cumulative value 10,000, which is 10x of what you are investing. So I think that kind of a role, or that kind of an individual is really important for any organization who understands the AI and who could actually pick and show you that value of AI.
And there seems to be two different worlds, and I completely agree. I think that's going to be a very important role of the future, and especially with these two different worlds: technology, software development, so software engineers, the software as a service, how we would look at it, and AI tend to be different skill sets. And from the outside in, we go, oh well, they're in technology. They're not the same. And again, that nuance of productionization, saying, well, I've got this thing, it can do really clever stuff. That's not the considerations when you're running a development team at any major project. You've got so many different roles involved. You've got roles, you've got rules, you've got standards, you've got objectives. It's just a different mindset, and typically the AI people are not trained in that old world, but the world in which the AI is being implemented is that old world on infrastructure, existing infrastructure, which has been built over years, which has had its opportunity to mature. It has typically stability. And even just the concept of a stable platform, we all know how mad the world gets if uh, your broadband, your cable internet disappears, or a data center goes down, or WhatsApp goes down, or any of the major systems. We go, this is unacceptable. But also, what would you expect? Putting immature, uh, misunderstood, not fully thought out new wave technology into old wave uh, trusted tech infrastructure. And that's not even before you look at the data, something which has been alluded to before. What data? Because if you're bringing in pre-baked models, then even if you have that within your own infrastructure to a point, you never had the transparency to understand what's even in there in the first place. And for the more technical, you know, listeners, viewers, they'll understand model distillation. But again, goes back to your point. Does anyone in the business who's not in either IT, tech, infrastructure, or the new way of AI even know what that means? Well, probably not. So there's a massive role of education coming in here as
Yeah,
well.
no, and definitely, and that's where I raised that other point, which is like, uh, we should not rush into AI just because of the feeling that we are being left out. It's the adoption should be gradual, and before that adoption, the business needs to figure out like what are the exact pain points that are still existing in the current ecosystem, and for which you would like to adopt this new wave technology. And then you need to have someone who could actually translate that in terms of business matrix or KPIs to show you that, okay, if we take this new wave technology and we try to address this pain point, this results in a better outcome, which gradually results in better revenues. Because, like you mentioned, someone who is in business, who doesn't know IT, or who doesn't know how this AI even works, for them, I think the only KPIs that matter is what revenue does it generate, and how does this new wave technology change my existing outcome.
Mm.
If you are not able to justify these two to that business owner, they will reject your technology, or they will reject your proposal outright, even without understanding it. So I think, more than technical aspects, I think we need to know how to translate the benefits into a business term or a business equation, so that the folks who actually run the business, or who are actually because at the end of the day there's no denial that they are the people who will invest the money in that technology, or who will or your money flow would come from that place. So if you need to take them into confidence, and the only way is to translate those technicalities into something business focused outcomes which are understandable by those people. Today, if I go and say someone that let's adopt AI because it will drastically change my manufacturing process, people might not buy it. I need to tell them that if I implement a automated process in my manufacturing, let's say, and I'm just making it up. Let's say I implement a new robot which could actually put in wheels into a vehicle. Now, the current rate of putting wheels into a vehicle might be, for a single individual, might be 5 in an hour. But if we bring in AI and a robot which could put wheels, and the rate is 20 in an hour, so my production rate increases by 4 times, because now I can put 4 robots which would put 4 wheels in at the rate of 20 in an hour. So if earlier I was manufacturing, let's say, 2 vehicles in 1 hour, now the number of vehicles I'm manufacturing is 8 in an hour. And so if you are manufacturing more, your inventory is more, and that actually translates to more revenue. So you have to go through this entire step to prove that outcome of AI. This might not be true for technical people because they are already in this new wave technology. They know how it works. But at the same time, I think an organization works on both the pillars, business and technical. It's not that you just need to take the technical folks into confidence and leave the business aside. And the other way is also not true, that you just uh, convince the business, but actually when you are hands down implementing, then you realize, oh, this is something which doesn't even work for me, and I need to take buy something else, or use a different technology, or use a different language model XYZ. So I think that balance is very important, and you really need to translate how this AI would eventually benefit the organization, because this is what I have also felt, that we do a lot of proposals, but I, the inherent fear is that AI will tarnish our reputation. AI won't work well. What is that extra benefit that AI will bring in, which my current system or my current infrastructure is not able to bring? So I think these are some of the very common basic questions that we face every day. But I think the only answer to these is you really need to translate the technology into business terms, that someone who is not even aligned with these with the old IT world or the new AI era, is able to understand, and then he is able to put his or her faith in you, so that you can actually use that technology and show the actual benefit.
In many ways, it's improving communication, uh,
Yep.
actually having conversation and dialogue. And the third point of that is setting expectations. If you've had communication, if all stakeholders have said, well, what are we trying to achieve? What is involved? And not overshooting the expectations, say, oh, if we get this in, it'll do everything to everyone. Uh,
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
say, well, what is involved? If everyone can understand and the expectations are set, then you can all agree what you're looking to achieve. So one thing that I did want to talk about, because and this is moving slightly away from the tech side, but
Mhm.
given your experience in this world, I think listeners and viewers would find it extremely valuable, especially given the international uh, audience that we have, to really understand. where you began as a kid and what your journey was from a human being perspective to set you up to be where you are, to have the fascinations that you have. Well, where did it all begin? Right from the very beginning.
So that's actually a very interesting question. I usually don't discuss this much, but I'm not sure if you have heard about this astronaut Kalpana Chawla.
Yeah.
She was an American astronaut who lost life in a space mission. I'm so sorry, I forgot the exact name. The reason why the crash happened is the outer layer of the spacecraft got heated when it was entering the atmosphere, got heated to such an extent that it kind of burned the entire spacecraft. And that was, if I remember correctly, that was due to a misaligned plate that was fixing the solar panels on the outside of the aircraft. So that actually pushed me into thinking that at that kind of temperature, and I'm talking, this was way back, 15 years back, I'm talking about 2010, roughly around that time. And that was like, that pushed me into thinking that what if we could have a robotic arm that was kind of hinged into that aircraft, which could understand instructions, and which could actually fix that plate. So, and it could have potentially avoided that crash, or at least brought brought those people to a certain level where they would have at least lived for a few more years, because anyways the trauma would have far exceeded that if they would be alive, but at least at the end of the day they would be alive. So I think that was the start of my journey, where I actually thought that AI has got massive potential, which could, to be honest, I have also always thought of ways in which AI could solve societal problems. No, I was never interested in using AI to uh, build products which wouldn't solve societal problems, because the scope in AI is huge. But when you see that how AI is being used, uh, 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 the focus on solving some of the real world problems are not what I would have wanted it to be. It People might differ with me, but there is like climate change. I know we talk a lot about it. There's climate change, and there are a lot of other stuff, but I think that focus of using AI should be more there, uh, if we really want to utilize the power of AI. So, anyways, so I think that was the one which basically pushed me into that, and I also wrote a small research paper on that, like what kind of space arms could be used, and there is actually something called a Canadian arm, which I think which was built by Canada and sent to the International Space Station. So I did a lot of research around that, and I kind of published a small paper which was like locally back in India. The second one, which really after I was done with this, I was actually looking for topics, and then I realized that uh, there is something which is a very which was very problematic for visually impaired individuals, which was like, you have maps for outdoor environments. Like today, if someone is visually impaired, not today, I'm still talking about 2010, 12, that era. Today things have changed a lot, but if someone was visually impaired, they had a map of the outside world. But what about the inside world? Let's say a visually impaired person wants to visit a mall. does how would that visually impaired person navigate through the mall? Because the mall is a closed entity, and it doesn't have any kind of aid to assist that visually impaired to navigate inside a mall, or let's say inside someone's home. How to navigate that? So I think so what I did is I developed kind of a prototype, using a screen reader and a localized network map, and kind of which would continuously read through directions, understand the person's concern, and try to guide them to the place where they want to go. So I think this was my second project. And the final project which I did for my thesis in my bachelor's, and that actually got published as a IEEE paper in the Global Humanitarian Conference. I actually developed a social networking website for the visually impaired, and what I did is the important, because when someone is visually impaired, security is a very important challenge. So I implemented something called audio fingerprinting. Like every individual, they have their own audio signatures. So I implemented that audio fingerprinting into the website, so it would only you will only be able to access that website when you unlock it with your own voice. And this was like published back in 2014. So after that, I think these really pushed me into a state where I thought that I could start a career with AI. And then gradually I got the opportunity to work with IBM, and I started as a data engineer, data scientist. And then I traveled to Europe. I used to work in Ireland, so in Dublin. So I worked there for a long time, went to UK, and then from there went back to India again. These years, I realized that some of the problems that I was working were in my individual capacity, but when you get into a organization, you actually see more problems, because they have their own clients who come with their own problems. Not necessarily they impact the society directly, but they do impact the society indirectly, because I've worked with a lot of financial organizations wherein they had challenges, and that involved obviously money, and money at a very large scale, which was which had the ability to impact the economy, or which had the ability to at least uh, dampen a lot of financial equations that are existing in the world. So I got to solve those kind of problems. Then gradually I moved into the product side, and I started leading a chatbot team, and wherein we built custom made chatbots to solve these kind of problems. And then the funny part is, when I started, it was like regression, and then it was like linear regression, or like multiple regression, those kind of like very basic ML. Like deep learning was just evolving. Like you do a neural network architecture, it's like, okay, this is like great, looks out of the world. And in just 10 to 12 years, the things have changed so much. It's like uh, uh, at least the notion today is like, we have large language models, why even need neural networks? But one thing which I say everyone is, we have large language models to then we have agentic AI. Tomorrow we'll have something else, but the foundation layer never changes. At the foundation, it's still the same thing. Earlier, what we used to do is we used to take a training set, we used to train a model. Today, with large language models, the training set is still there, but in that training set, instead of one type of data, we have five types of data. that essentially doesn't change the fundamental. The fundamental still remains the same, that you need a training set to train an AI. It hasn't changed anything. What I tell a lot of people is, because this AI is progressing so fast, still I suggest everyone to have a foundational grounding of how AI started. Because if you don't know what supervised and unsupervised learning is, at some point, if you are working in an organization and you hit a roadblock, you won't be able to understand how to resolve that roadblock. Because when I am being asked to come up with the architecture, I consider all the aspects. For someone who started the AI journey from large language models, coming up with that architecture is very difficult, because when you hit that roadblock, you might not be able to justify, or might not be able to find a workaround of how it works, because you lack the fundamental concepts. It There are still number of things that work well with, let's say, XGBoost, or with BERT. You don't need a large language models, like the example we were talking about, like predictive analytics is still something which is heavily in use. But for predictive analytics, you cannot, let's say, today someone comes and asks a person that, can you build me an architecture around this predictive modeling problem that I have. If that person started their journey from large language models, it will be very difficult for them to come up with an architecture, because we have seen this. I In my capacity in IBM, I also do trainings, and I also conduct AI academy for some of our clients. I have seen this come a lot of time, that can we solve this problem with LLM? No, that is like, again, back to the same thing. You don't want to be left behind, but you are not understanding the root of that problem, because again, everything cannot be solved with LLM or with agentic AI. There can be problems which can be resolved using deep learning models, which still uh, and the other thing is, what because we are talking about this entire journey, cost is a very important factor in POC. In POC, nobody cares about the cost, because you see, oh, this is working well, it's good, it's fine, we are good. The moment you deploy into production, and for every input you get in a chatbot, you pass that to a LLM, and then at the end of the month you get $100,000 bill. Oh, what did actually just happen? Because POC was great, and all of a sudden what happened, and this cost is so high, it doesn't even justify moving into that next phase or adopting AI. So I think these are some of the things that I, as an individual in my personal capacity, I really feel that, and since I have been through this entire journey, I really feel that even if we have large language models and agentic AI coming up, we should still have some sense of understanding of how the foundational AI, or how the fundamentals of AI really work. What is reinforcement learning? What is semi-supervised learning? What role actually does a labeled data play? So these kind of questions, these are like really basics. It's not even some of the advanced concepts of the traditional ML, but I think what I feel is, these are not marketed in that way in which it should have been. Because you see, today if we go into and buy some kind of a course on the internet, so it will just say that this will start with large language models, this will start with prompting. Okay, those kind of things can help you to uh, like get started. But if like the role which I am in, if you really want to be an AI architect, you need to have a holistic view of what exactly and everything does.
And all,
So yeah.
I think that the final point here, you've set that up perfectly. which is the big companies out there are effectively selling tokens. They're selling energy. So it's very much in their interest to not talk about this. But for any business looking to use it, that layer of education, that understanding, to say, yeah, there are fantastic things that could be done, but actually considerations like edge, considerations of, well, for what you're trying to achieve, this form of AI, GraphRag, for example, is far more powerful, far more cost efficient, far more accurate than an LLM. But all we hear is do one thing, and if people are trained based upon what the large companies are particularly selling, and it is in their interest, that thin layer of education to ask the right questions prevents you saying, well, let's actually look at how these very large companies function. Now, for Google are fine because they've got a much bigger business. They're a legacy big business. Meta have other businesses. They're perfectly fine. But in reality, if you look at the one particular organization, even Microsoft had and have another business sitting there. If you look at the computational cost, if you look at the energy cost, taking on one customer for OpenAI loses them more money. So the more they scale, the more money they lose. If you adopt that as your business without that as a consideration, that's potentially catastrophic. So the actual importance not only is can you avoid hugely expensive risks, but you could actually generate incredible opportunity. It just it makes sense to have a good understanding.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a very important point that you raised, and I would like to briefly touch upon that, is the energy requirements. Because we are when we are aiming for a zero carbon footprint, and the amount of energy that these large language models they kind of spend, so i- i- it's a kind of it's imperative that we think about how much natural resources, like for example water, we need to use to cool those systems. I know the large organizations like Google and IBM and all of these large organizations, they are already working towards it to kind of reduce the impact or reduce the energy that is being consumed. But I think that's something very important today. Like, we go out there and we generate an image, we don't like it, we regenerate it, we do it 10 times. But at the end of the day, there will be maybe one out of 10 individual who really thinks that this generation of this image for 10 times gave me that perfect image, but at the background, what kind of energy did it consume, and what are the ripple effects of that energy consumption? I think because we are so spellbound by the capabilities of AI, that thought never crosses the mind, because it's like, okay, I got a picture to use in my school project. I'm more than happy. But how long will you be able to use that picture? Is it something that 15 years down the line, when there are a lot of concerns about climate change, and in 2050 some of the big metropolis of the world would get flooded, and all these kind of talks going on, is it feasible to keep generating that picture even 15 years later? What kind of energy requirements do we need to have in place? So I think that is the need of the art, that not only the big organizations, I think, which everybody needs to think about. Because if we really want to have a positive impact on climate change and do a zero carbon footprint, I don't think it's just the organizations that could do. I think it boils down to the individual responsibilities also. It's as me and you as a person also have responsibility. uh, yeah, Before this AI came into play, we were doing our homework in school, we were doing other tasks. What to till what level do we need to use that AI to to augment our task? Is it something we can still do without using it? Obviously, if this is a capability, and this is something which is being promoted, or which is being built by organizations, definitely we should use it. There's no question about that. But I think this environmental aspect is something which at least we should think about, or start thinking about. Like, uh, is it really needed, or how can we basically, to position in this way, how can we optimize the use of AI? I think that should be the fundamental question, in my personal opinion. Yeah.
Well, I think history teaches us that in many ways, over time, convenience kills. So
Yeah.
it's been a fantastic pleasure, a really, really fascinating conversation, and really, really appreciate your time, Sumitro.
Thank you so much, Graham. And it was really pleasure talking to you. And I hope we have another opportunity soon.
I'm sure we will. Excellent. Thank you very much. Cheers.